Welcome to another edition of Client Success Stories, everybody. I am Coach Jackson, and I'm joined here with Steven. Steven crushed the program. He lost 20 pounds, 8% body fat, 3 inches off his waist, and went from no pack to 6-pack in just 16 weeks. Incredible transformation, capped off with an unbelievable beach photo with his daughter running on the beach, full smiles, and he's got the before photo as well, also on the same beach. I mean, what an incredible story, Steven. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Steve Lubin. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a dad of two, and I own my own business for a living, and had a great time in the program. So happy to share my story with anyone who's considering it.
Well, we really appreciate you obviously being here. And the photos, say 1,000 words. The photos are incredible. I mean, seeing the comparison on the same beach with your daughter, like just incredible photos. But the stats also speak volumes. But despite all the good stuff, let's kind of take it back for a second. And if we kind of go back in time before you even joined the program, when you were kind of, maybe in a different place, headspace and time, what was, maybe one or two moments that come to mind when you were maybe struggling a little bit more and prior to joining the program, when you kind of hit maybe a point where you thought to yourself, God, I need to change things?
Yeah. So what kind of brought me to the program is I was coming up on a year of having the tonal, and I was I was trying to figure out where I was going to go next. That's what I was kind of struggling with, is that I was getting decent results. I had been consistent for a long time, but I was wondering where if there was going to be another level to get to. And the struggle for me was if I was going to take myself to that level. So then that's when I enjoyed your programs the most on the tonal. So, 4 weeks to fat loss 2, I thought was a great program. I thought Go Big or Go Home was a great program. So when I found out that you did one-on-one coaching, I was really interested. And I kind of, for me, I had too much going on in my head to really figure out what I was going to do next, whether it was going to be another program or whatever. So that was my struggle. And then we had our discovery call, and I was like, I'm going to give it a chance, at least give it a chance to work, and we'll see what happens and see if there even is another level to go to. Because to be honest, you know, you mentioned the stats at the beginning. I didn't think I had 20 pounds to lose. I was like, I'm in pretty good shape. And I flexed, I would flex every day in front of the mirror and in front of my wife. And I'd be like, am I getting too jacked? I'd be making a joke, but, so I really didn't think I had 20 pounds to lose. So it was a surprise. So for me, it was struggling to even decide if I was going to go to the next level, because I didn't even really know that I didn't consider how much there was to improve. So that's kind of where I was.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get the tonal, you're making some progress, you're in pretty good shape. And look, your before photo is not bad. It is not a bad starting place by any means. In fact, there's probably people listening or watching this that are saying, God, I wish I was in that starting position. But for you, you're sitting there saying, okay, I feel like I might have a little bit more to go. I'm not sure, but I feel kind of like something that's telling me that maybe there's a little bit more I can give or more I can achieve, and I'm maybe not maxing out that level of potential. Does that kind of sum up maybe some of the feelings that you kind of had at that time, or the frustrations that you were feeling to possibly do something like a program like this?
Yeah, I think I was, like you said, I was making decent progress, but I was, at the same time, I was also like, well, I'm coming up on a year. I don't exactly look like a male model. And I was like, you know, what is it? What does it take to get there? I would have thought, I would have thought I would have been in maybe a little bit of more of an impressive shape at the end of a year. I was like, man, I've been working out for a year on the tonal. I know the algorithm's working. I know I'm doing progressive overload. I know I'm doing this. I know that a lot of the things that I'm doing just by being on tonal are correct. So, why, what is there something I'm missing? Do I need to be doing? And then I do a good amount of reading, so it's like, am I supposed to be doing push pull splits? Am I supposed to be doing straight hypertrophy work? Should I be doing more hit? So that kind of I had a little bit of mental anguish there because I was just like, I didn't exactly know the roadmap, which is something that I think your program really helped me with, was kind of you take the mental side out of it, which is something that I was struggling with because it was just like I didn't it, I didn't really know what to do. And so again, at the end of that year, I was like, okay, well, is there more to go, or am I capped out? And then I lost 20 pounds. So I was like, yeah, there was a lot more to go. I just didn't really realize it.
I think your story is common for at least people that we've featured here that have been inducted into our Action Jackson Fitness Hall of Fame, because we hear that story a lot, especially from men that come into the program, which is, didn't realize I had that much to lose in terms of body fat, but also didn't realize kind of all the potential that I was kind of leaving out there. Didn't realize where my ceiling was, and I didn't know I'd be able to achieve this much. But at the same time, feeling a little bit of frustration of like, I feel like there could be more. I just don't know what that level is. So I think there's a number of factors going on there, right? You're a little frustrated because you've been putting in a lot of time and effort and energy over the course of a year, and you've made some progress, but not maybe as fast as you would like, and not as much progress as you would like. So you're kind of aware that there is some more potential there, but don't know what the roadmap is, don't know specifically what you need to be doing in order to achieve that. So I think that's a very common struggle for a lot of people. And it's really about just kind of managing these different puzzle pieces. You have your training, you have your nutrition, you got your mindset, and then you have some accountability and support to really push you and put gas on the fire. And when you combine all of these things, that's when you can get this next level result. And I'd say training and nutrition, first and foremost, if those things aren't right, you're not going to get those next level results. And that's where a lot of people struggle. And obviously that's where we give assistance and really help people dial things in. So if you had to go back to the early days, or the decision to really join the program, like what was it for you that made the difference of like, yes, I want to give this a shot and see what can happen? Was there a specific moment, a specific thing, a specific like anything, or kind of what was that thought process like for you to take the jump and take the risk and put some faith in us and go for it?
Well, I think our discovery call was, a really big factor for me. I wasn't exactly sure what maybe you were going to be like. And you look great on tonal. You do. I liked what you said, but I wasn't really sure what it was going to all be like. And then it was also kind of like I was able to pay month by month. So I was like, whatever. I was like, I'll try. I can try it for 1 month, and if it's terrible, then I'll bail. And I was like, but let me try and let me see if it's the real deal. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that we talked about on our first call, it was just like, yeah, he's thinking, and he's thinking and expressing the things that I'm looking for, which is, I was looking for guidance, and I was looking to see if there was, I guess I didn't really understand that I was looking for a coach, because I've never really been trained or coached before, and that's what I was looking for, and like you said too, there are four pieces. It's the physical training, it's the nutrition, it's the mental game, and then it's the accountability. But the mental game and the accountability weren't even on my radar. I hadn't even factored those into even the whole picture. So, and I think you had touched on some of that stuff too, just in our first interaction. And I was like, okay, one of the things that I liked about you most in the tonal programs was like, well, he's not, it's a cheesy line, but I say it all the time. It's like, we're not just meatheads, we're intellectual badasses, right? So you say that a lot, and for me that resonates a lot because you're not just sitting there moving weight aimlessly. It's thought out, it's strategic, it's tactical, and I didn't have the capability of doing that myself. So when I had our discovery call and I heard the kinds of things that you said, and you're like, look, we take we take a plan, a real plan, a whole plan, and we provide that to you. And I was like, okay, well, great, I'll give it a shot because I only have to. And I was like, if it doesn't work after month one, okay. And I even considered at the beginning, I was like, maybe I'm timing this wrong. I was like, and I have another friend who's on tonal, and I was like, I think I'm about to take Jackson's coaching, and I was like, but I don't know if I'm even doing it at the right time. I was like, because by the end of it, I'm going to be really jacked in November. I was like, I don't know if I need to be ripped in November. It's not even beach season. So I was like, maybe I'll wait. And he kind of pushed me too. He was like, he said, yeah, but just do it now, and then come beach season, imagine how much easier it'll be. And so I was like, all right, whatever, I'll do it now. And I'm really glad I did. I'm glad I took the chance because, again, I didn't even understand really that I needed a coach because I'd never really been coached before. But it's a lot, and like I said, there's half of the equation that I was completely missing or ignoring. I can lift and I can do the tonal programs and all that stuff, and I know how to track. I know how to put my calories in a calculator, but accountability and the mental aspect was my favorite part of the whole thing, to be honest.
So I want to touch on that one point, and then we'll get into the mindset stuff. So you mentioned not even being aware of some certain things and aspects of kind of getting to your end result. And I think that's very common because despite the fact that you do some reading, and despite the fact that you obviously have worked out and put some effort in and you've tracked your calories and macros, this is not something that you do for a full-time living. And this is not something that you just are able to invest quite as much time as I am, because this is what I do, again, professionally. So there's things I'm going to be aware of and know that you're just generally not. And that's totally fine. I mean, that's the whole point of getting a coach. And whether you're building a business or trying to obviously create your ideal dream physique, you want to get somebody who's done it before, who can help guide you and can provide you a little guidance on where the potholes are, where the exits are, where the fast lanes are, et cetera, so that the road and the path to get there is a little bit smoother, a little bit more streamlined, and maybe not quite as bumpy. And that's essentially what a coach does. I feel pretty lucky that I've played sports my entire life. So from 5 years old until I was 21 in college, when I graduated college, I played baseball in college. I had a coach constantly, an athletic coach. So for me, when I started my first business, getting a coach just felt like a very normal thing. Like, this is what you just do. You just get a coach to help you fast track things and to help provide you guidance and feedback. So for me, it was totally normal, but for a lot of people, it's not. So I guess one question on that before we kind of jump into some other things, which is like, I guess whether it's an ego thing or whatever, like, was there some hesitation around like, oh, getting a coach, like, I don't need a coach? Did you ever think that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the way that kind of came out for me was, um, why wouldn't I just do it myself? Or, with the internet, why wouldn't I just read or watch some YouTube videos? Or I already have a pretty good knowledge base. I have a year of experience under my belt. Tonal's already got a lot of content out there. So why, what, how much of an advantage could this really be? How much benefit could there really be? Because I I can already kind of do it. I have a lot of resources at my disposal, and I can kind of do it myself. And that's kind of was my hesitation and my reservation. And I mean, looking back, it seems, you make a really good point right there. It seems silly to think that way now, knowing like, well, one of the reasons that I ended up taking a chance with you is, I mean, it was obviously proven that you had done it before, right? So you had built the physique before yourself, and I was like, okay, cool. He's gotten to the mountain that I'm trying to climb, and if you're gonna climb Mount Everest, they put you with guides, right? So you had already climbed the hike, and that was the reason I wanted to come here in the first place. I was like, okay, he's gone where I'm trying to go. And then on top of that, what I didn't realize, you've done it a lot of times before, which not everyone's a good teacher either. People can go someplace and not be able to express that in a way that someone can digest it, which after our discovery call, I was like, okay, well, he's able to say things in a way that I'm going to be able to digest, absorb, and put into practice. So okay, things are better. And then once you get into the program and you send all that material at the beginning, it's like, oh, whoa, this is really well thought out, and it really is teaching. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I, I I would say it's not natural for me to have a coach, and I didn't play any kind of college athletics or anything like that. So for me, a lot of the things I do are self discovery, and I make the mistakes myself. But yeah, it's having a coach is great, and having a business coach is great. And as I'm an entrepreneur, I have two of my own businesses, and since it was kind of in tandem with the program, I hired an accountability coach based on the recommendation of my friend, and in both areas that I have coaches now, I'm excelling quickly, right? And it only took 4 months to go somewhere I've never been before with you, which, I mean, if you think about 4 months in the scope of my life, it's a very short amount of time. But at the same, I've had my business coach for about uh, roughly 6 months. Um, well, I guess even a little less. I guess it was really right around the same time. It was like late June when I got it, and where I'm at in my business now is far exceeded because thinking about things in a different way, and I have accountability. And then that I don't know if you saw that Mr. Beast thing that came out, but like one of the main things in his handbook was like hire a consultant. He was like, if I'm trying to build a cake, I'm going to hire someone who's baked 1,000 cakes. Well, if you're trying to build your dream physique, it's a lot easier to hire someone who's built 1,000 dream physiques. It's a lot more impactful, and it's a lot easier to get there with a guide than it is to just hike Mount Everest by yourself.
Yeah. And it's very possible you still could get there on your own if you went, but it's going to take you a lot longer. It's going to be a lot more frustrating. And most of the time, especially somebody like yourself, who fitness is something that's complementing your life, not the main focus of your life, you're probably just going to end up giving up or get frustrated or just sort of continue with the status quo and just think to yourself and rationalize, well, it's genetics. It's just not in the cards, or I look great and this is the best I could possibly look. You're going to rationalize to yourself why you didn't get to that next level. So I totally get it. I always just like to remind myself, Michael Jordan had a coach. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, huge Bulls fan from the 90s. I got a big poster of Michael Jordan up there on my wall. It says mindset. And I always remind myself, Michael Jordan wasn't really Michael Jordan that we know with all the championships until Phil Jackson came around. It was the coach that got him. And even if you want to take it a step further, it was his trainer who helped him get past the Pistons, the guy that wrote the book Relentless, Tim Grover. So he had two coaches that were really the catalyst for creating what we know of as like the legendary Michael Jordan. He had Tim Grover, who helped him get physically strong and certainly helped him with some of the mindset stuff to get past the Pistons. And you had Phil Jackson, who created his ability to pass the ball, bring in his teammates, and do other things. So that's the power that a coach can have, giving you new ideas, pushing you outside your comfort zone, giving you that shortcut to success, helping you see where those potholes are ahead so you don't step in them yourself, and just really fast tracking things for you. So I'm so glad that we were able to shift your mindset around coaching there. And that's so helpful. And the last thing I'll mention, I remember at one point I was 0 for 46 doing like enrollment calls for my online fitness business when I was transferring from in-person to online. Online phone sales, very different than in-person stuff. 0 for 46, finally hired this coach who specialized just in sales. And very shortly after doing that, I started closing a lot more deals very quickly. And I was like, I don't want to be Jordan Belfort on the phone, and I don't want to be this ninja. And he's like, wouldn't it be amazing if people just showed up on the phone and wanted to join your program? And I said, yeah. He's like, well, let's just do that then. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And again, a little bit of a leap of faith, but I invested in it. It was $12,000 for me to join. Did it, made the investment, and very shortly I made that money back and then some. And that single $12,000 investment for me has generated me millions in revenue since doing that back in I think it was 2018. I joined that program. And I think since then I've done like $1.8 million in sales. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
that was worth it.
pretty good return on investment.
Yeah, pretty good return on investment. I'm so glad that I joined that. And if I hadn't, I might not have been able to help you. I might have been able to help the hundreds of people that I've worked with since then. So next thing is just tackling maybe some of the mindset stuff. You had mentioned mindset being a big component of it. Obviously, the coaching thing is somewhat of a mindset. We talked about that. What other mindset breakthroughs were there for you as you kind of went through the program?
I mean, there was surprisingly a lot. I mean, the biggest things that stand out are just, you know, it's going to sound, everything that I'm about to say is probably going to sound cliche, right? Like, it's discipline, though. Discipline is one of the biggest things that came out of it, and it's consistency. Being disciplined and being consistent at the same time is just an extremely powerful personal trait. There's really nothing that, you know, once you have the end goal in mind, if you can stay disciplined and consistent on the things it takes to get there, there's really nothing that you can't do. But you know, you get into the program and you spend money. So for me, once I spent my first dollar, I was like, okay, I'm all in. Um, and you know, but the first month is easy, and you even say that, you know, you're filled with uh, good energy, you're excited about it. First month is easy, you know, because you're pumped up about it. Well, and then the second month gets a little bit tougher. Well, at the end of the second month, you're you're almost like, wow, this is a lot, and and I've done 8 weeks of hard training, and I've counted my calories pretty strict for 8 weeks, and it starts now to take, you know, almost a mental toll, and you start mentally checking out a little bit. But then you keep reading the material that you're giving and that you give, and even you kind of time it right on your check-ins, and you check in and you go, where are you at? Where's your headspace? And it's like, oh, yeah, because these are the common mental pitfalls that people fall into, because the only thing that stops you from doing the program the right way is your mental attitude. I mean, I guess barring an injury or something like that, but it's really a mental game. Hey, keep waking up, keep doing your fasted workouts, keep tracking your calories, keep being consistent, and keep being disciplined. And to stay disciplined and consistent for a long period of time is not something I would consider myself good at. It's not something I would consider myself like I had a big skill, but by the end of this program, it's the thing that I was most proud of was that, you know, I did stay disciplined, I did stay consistent, and the program made me do that because I was structuring. I was like, well, I got to get my workout in tomorrow, and knowing that I have to get my workout in tomorrow, what does my day have to look like? And I mean, I was structuring my days solely based on what I was doing here, and it was just a big shift in the way I approached each day. And as each day was a success, each week became a success, and each phase became a success. So, I mean, the discipline and the consistency was huge. Um, and then, the one of the other big mental breakthroughs that you touch on a lot in some of your programs is progress, not perfection, right? And like, for example, there was one Saturday I wasn't going to be able to get my lift in, or my cardio day, and I was going to be able to get that in. But I moved it to Sunday, and it was like, okay. And I was a little mad at myself because I was like, well, the day got away from me. I didn't get it in. I didn't wake up early enough or whatever, but I got it in that Sunday, and I was like, oh, well, this was that progress, not perfection kind of thing. So, it, you can't be exactly perfect, I don't think, for 8 weeks, but you don't even have that expectation, and you've never really set that expectation for your client to be perfect. You set the expectation for your clients to make progress and not be perfect. Well, I didn't really understand that as much as I do now that I've been through it, where, it's 8 weeks of, you just can't be perfect for 8 weeks, even though on month one, you can, you're like, okay, or sorry, 16 weeks, whatever it is. I'm saying the wrong terminology, but can't be perfect for 16 weeks. So the my yeah, and my point is like, month one, you might be able to be perfect for 4 weeks, which, I pretty much was for 4 weeks. Well, and then that first time that you're not perfect, you beat yourself up a little bit about it. And I even reached out to you and was like, hey, I'm beating myself up a little bit about not being perfect. And you were like, you reached back out to me, you re-engaged me, you sent me some content, you sent me some YouTube videos to watch, and you were like, here's how you need to mentally approach that. And it was eye-opening. It was such an eye-opening experience because it allows you to continue forward even when you aren't perfect. Whereas, I think in the past, without the coaching, without the check-ins, without that stuff, maybe a little lapse in perfection would have caused the whole house to come down. Knowing that the program is 16 weeks, and knowing that you aren't expected to be perfect, or you don't have to be exactly perfect, but you want to be as close to it as you can, and knowing that you have the time frame. I mean, I guess another mental thing that kind of was a big deal that I learned was, I functioned really well when there's a set game plan and a set time frame. And it was like, okay, I know I can do this for 4 weeks. And I know I can do this for another 4 weeks, and each phase is kind of brought up. And so, for me, being able to mentally understand that timelines and deadlines are an important part of what helped me function at a high level. And it kind of helps you get through the hard stuff too, because I mean, I'll be honest, like I didn't love the training style in phase two. It just wasn't my favorite. It didn't really add up to, it's not what I was accustomed to. It's not really something that I would say I had a great time in, but I was able to tell myself I only got 4 of these, or 4 weeks of this, so I can push through this, which then, allows you to say another mental breakthrough is, I can do hard things. Um, and even if it is hard, even if I don't want to do it, I can do it, and I can mentally push through those barriers. You know, at one point in phase two, you're doing resisted step ups, and it feels like you have to do a fucking thousand of them, and you know you don't want to, but that's what Coach Jackson wants you. That's your program. That's what you're supposed to do, and you just do it. You grit your teeth and do it, and then I think that was like one of the strongest muscles I built throughout the whole program was I'm able to do hard things. And I think that helped me in a ton of areas outside of the program where it was like, there's something on your to-do list that you don't want to do. You don't want to make a phone call, or you don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation, or you don't want to, you don't want to, you don't want to fire a guy or something, something that's hard, that you have mental resistance to, but you realize that you're capable of doing all those hard things by just simply doing the reps and pushing through it. I mean, it sounds cliche, but you really learn that during this program, is that you are capable of doing things that you don't want to do, and you are capable of pushing your limits, and you are capable of doing really tough things because that's what's expected of you. And that's it's like, that, you're only cheating yourself if you don't do it. And I thought that a lot of times is like, Coach Jackson's not in the room with me watching me, but you know, this is what's expected of me, and this is what I'm supposed to do. So if I don't do it, I'm only cheating myself. And so you just do the work that's in front of you. And that applies to a lot of things in life. Just do the work that is expected of you, that's set in front of you. Um, and whether you want to or whether you don't, or you just, this is what's expected, and this is what needs to get done. Hey, I'm a little tired today, but this is the work that's expected of me, to get it done. So the mental aspect of it all is of the training program was, it's just invaluable, to be honest. That was my favorite. I mean, that was my favorite part. It's just like you realize that you're such a more just a, I know this is a long monologue, but you're just a capable, so much more capable than your mental state. Man. It was great. I love. That was my favorite part of it.
There are so many lessons there that we could share. If we were to go back, there's probably 10 incredible lessons that can apply not just to fitness and nutrition and things, but to all aspects of life for people to win the mental game of life. So I'll just try to remember a couple of them and throw them out there that you touched on. But you had things like obviously discipline and consistency. And a lot of people think, oh, I just need to try harder to be more disciplined. No, you also mentioned how filling out weekly reviews and reviewing your progress and checking in with your coach and all of these things. That's the system that creates the discipline over time. So you have these things that you want to do, but what's the system or the process that's going to allow you to facilitate that? How are you making sure that you're following through? And that's where frameworks of systems really play a big role, in accountability, of course, and also a little bit of urgency of knowing I only have a timeline of 4 weeks or so to get through this. So I think that's helpful. Chunking, you mentioned breaking things down into 4 week periods, but then even breaking it down into like a single day and the next action that you have to do. So chunking is a big part of that, which is just kind of a mental trick you play on yourself to get yourself to do difficult things that you don't want to do. So if I have to do 15 reps of bicep curls or something, my biceps are already tired. Well, I just break that down. I had to do Bulgarian split squats in my workout yesterday. Bulgarian split squats are horrible, as everybody knows. And I was doing 10 reps on each leg. So I just chunked that down. And I was just like, okay, can I do 2 sets of 5? I can do 2 sets of 5. That's not that terrible. Okay, let's go. Set of 5. Boom, I get 5 done. Oh my God, that's horrible. Well, I just did 5. Can I get 5 more in? I could do 5. Okay, do 5. Or you can even chunk it down even further. And it's like 2 sets of 4, a set of 2 or something. But you play these little mental tricks with chunking so that you can facilitate you doing big, large things over a period of time, like finishing a complete workout or tracking all of your meals for the day. I don't have to track every meal. I just have to track the next meal. Can I do that? I can do that. That's manageable. Great. Execute, do it, and then do the next thing. So chunking is a really big and important one. And then what starts to happen is you do these things and then you kind of start to believe a little bit and you say, okay, well, this is what's required. Now I've done all these challenging things, kind of to what you were talking about, doing hard things. And it lowers your resistance to doing more hard things and other things, which is kind of cool. I know Andrew Huberman has talked about this. There's like a part in your brain that gets strengthened when you do difficult things and when you take action. And I think it's almost a combination of like my tagline and Tony Horton's tagline, which is like action is the difference plus consistency is king. And if you merge those together, you get consistent action is really the difference. And if you do that with challenging things over time, you train yourself to lower the bar, your action threshold, and then you just do it. And it just becomes almost easy and effortless. You build momentum with it. And then whether it's sales calls and calling somebody that you don't want to call, you just pick up the phone and dial it and call when you have momentum, and it's so much easier. Anybody who's ever done sales knows that making your 10th call today is a lot easier than making your first. And if you've been doing it every day, the 10th day in a row is much easier than the first, similarly. So there's so many, big lessons I think you shared there. And gosh, I wish I could, we could talk about each one of those topics for hours on end, but moving into the next aspect, and I think people at home would like to know, and we'll hit on this topic and then we'll kind of try to wrap things up. But like, what were maybe some of the obstacles that you might have faced during the course of the program? And maybe how did you overcome those? Maybe 1 or 2 obstacles that you faced, because a lot of people see this, they think, okay, you mentioned you can't be perfect. You got to focus on progress. When you face those difficulties, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I guess some of the big obstacles, the first big obstacle that comes to mind is when you're taking month one really seriously and you're trying to do it really well, the first big obstacle is restaurants, right? You really can't go out to a restaurant. And that's it. That would probably just someone hearing it right now, it probably seems crazy. Like, what do you mean you didn't go out to a restaurant for a month? That's way easier to do than you think. But the biggest challenge there is really holding yourself accountable and focusing on, maybe preparing your food a little bit. So restaurants was a challenge. How did I get over it? I mean, you only have to do it. You only really have to do it for 4 weeks. So you just tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to do it for 4 weeks. You go to you go to a social event and you're like, okay, I'm not drinking alcohol. Not drinking alcohol was, my mother-in-law was asking me, she was asking, she saw the progress. I told her I lost 10 pounds. She was like, oh my gosh, I want to lose 10 pounds. I go, great. I go, stop drinking alcohol. And she was like, I can't do that. And it was like, okay, well, you can. You only got to do it for 4 weeks. And I was like, just do it. So for me, that wasn't really a challenge, but I could see that being, I could see that being a challenge for others. But, you get a little bit of a lifestyle change at the beginning. But, and then, what something that I think that was a little hard is, people look at you a little bit confused, and it's so weird that people kind of judge you for being healthy sometimes, and you're like, hey, yeah, I'm eating chicken and broccoli, and they're like, well, why? And so I think my wife too was a little bit like, why are you doing this? What's the end game? I had to hang out with my parents at one point, and my mom made a bunch of food, and it was basically all carbs, and I was like, I can't really eat what you're presenting in front of me, and she was just like, I don't get it, and so for a little bit, you have external forces that are kind of working against you, um, and people don't understand, and for a little while, for a large part of my life is external validation. But what ended up happening is you stick with the game plan, and I kind of discovered internal validation for maybe one of the first times, and I was just like, hey, I'm not really doing this for anybody else. I'm just doing it for me. This is what I want to do, and and that was one of the more satisfying things that I got from the program too. Was just like, hey, once you stick to something, and you're committed to something, and you're disciplined to something, you find the gratification in that for yourself, which was cool. So that was one of the ways I overcame some of the obstacles, was discovering internal gratification, right? And saying like, hey, this isn't for anybody else. This is for me. And it doesn't matter what else is going on outside of here. Like, this is my game plan. This is what I'm sticking to. And you kind of, and then all of a sudden the noise disappears, all the noise from outside. And then, like you go out to a restaurant and you order, you're not drinking and everyone else is, you don't care. So, a lot of times those kind of factors would have kind of derailed me, I think. But I was in this program, I was committed to this program, and then I was committed to myself. And I don't think I've ever really been necessarily committed to myself to the extent that I was here. So that, that's kind of one of the ways I got over some of the obstacles. I'm trying to think if there was any other major ones.
Those are certainly plenty, and those are difficult ones. So let me quickly touch on that, and then ask a quick follow up, and then we'll kind of kind of put a bow on things. So when you're going through something like this, right, when you're challenging yourself and you're really committing to yourself, there are going to be things like this that come up. Now, what we're trying to do in the program is build certain skills and help you eventually achieve a bit more of a balance or a moderation point. But it's much easier to get to balance and moderation to start by kind of taking something away and then reintroducing it again. So with alcohol or other things, I mean, I don't drink a ton, but I still drink. I had a cocktail on Friday, took my dad out to dinner to celebrate his 75th birthday, had an old fashioned. Like, I still do drink occasionally. I don't drink that much. I don't drink that frequently, but I still do occasionally when occasion calls for it. But the thing is that if you are drinking and it is impacting your ability to achieve certain results and you're trying to get to that next level, taking it away for like 30 days or so you can kind of reestablish what that relationship is that you want to have with alcohol or with other kind of foods or sweets or whatever, is very helpful. That's how you achieve balance, not by going from like 3 cocktails to 2 cocktails, but going 3 to 0 to then maybe 1 or 2. That's so much easier than just cutting back a little bit. Most people try to cut back just a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to just eat a little bit less or snack a little bit less or have fewer cocktails. it just usually doesn't work. By taking a few things away, by kind of reestablishing a baseline and then saying, now what kind of relationship do I want to have with these things and how much do I want to include them? Now you can come at it from a much better perspective. And now you're not including kind of all your history and your beliefs and social pressures and other things for making those decisions. Because a lot of people just drink for social pressure or they eat certain foods because of social pressure. Now you can come at and say, what really serves me as an individual in the lifestyle? And for some people, that's going to be including wine very regularly. For other people, not so much. We've had clients that have quit alcohol completely, other clients that still drink and drink regularly, and other clients that have just cut back. It's really up to the individual to discover that. But I think it really does start from saying, okay, let me pull back on this, kind of see where I'm at, reestablish a baseline, now reintroduce it on my terms. I think that's really an important thing. And I think anytime you want to do something great like you did, like we're not talking about somebody who's obese who lost 10 or 20 pounds. I mean, you achieved an insane ripped physique. We're talking about, on the border of 10% body fat, somewhere around 14, maybe a little less, six pack abs, the whole thing. That's an extraordinary physique. That's a top 1% physique, maybe even a top, less than that. I think statistics suggest that somewhere between like 1 and 20 to 25,000 people have six pack abs like you do. That makes you very unique. I mean, it's more difficult and challenging to do what you've done than it is to become a millionaire, right? Like somewhere between 6 and 10% of households are millionaires. It's less than like 1% of people that have six pack abs. So very, very elite physique is what you have. When you're trying to do something like that, a lot of times people are going to call you crazy. People are going to call you out and say, well, what are you doing? Why do you want to do this? When I was on my fitness journey and doing all my kind of modeling and stuff, people thought I was crazy at that time because of the things that I was doing. Similarly, when I first started my business, when I quit my consulting job as a software engineer at Accenture, and I decided to become a personal trainer. I mean, I got looks, I got people calling me crazy. I had my friends saying I was nuts. I mean, my mom was like, "You're quitting your secure job. Are you crazy? Like, you don't have health insurance. What's going to happen?" And it's the best decision I ever made in my life. It was being able to ignore all of those external voices, to focus on me internally, what I wanted, what was good for me, and say, you know what, I'm going to go in this path. I'm going to ignore all the noise. I'm just going to focus, laser focus on what I want to do here and what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm only going to surround myself then with people who are supporters of this, who are going to be helpful and really help me get to that next level. And then I just did it. And it's the best thing I ever did. And then once you get to the outcome you want, it's funny how everyone circles back and go, "Oh, I always knew you were going to do it. This is amazing. You built this great business with all these people you helped. This is incredible." And it's like, where were you when I first got started? And you told me I was crazy. So I think that's a really valuable lesson to obviously lay out there for people. It's hard for a lot of people to do because they seek that external validation from people. They want to conform to their environment and their group. But I think if you want to achieve great things in your life, business wise, career wise, entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want an incredible marriage, these things are not the norm. It is not normal to be above average. Everyone thinks they're above average, but people are not. So if you look at a standard bell curve, it is not normal to be in the top, percentage of people. It's very abnormal. So you're going to have to think differently than other people. You're going to have to act differently than other people, and you're going to have to do things that don't always jive with everybody else. I always say you want to have different results than everybody, but you want to do the exact same things. That's not how it works. You have to do different things. And it doesn't mean, again, you can't have some moderation and some balance and some other things. I eat pizza once a week. I do drink. I probably have one or two drinks a week. I do these things, but I've figured out how to work them into the plan. Once I kind of have gotten closer to my outcomes, then I can re-include them. For a lot of people on the journey, got to take them away for a period, then reintroduce them, then find out what that moderation and that balance looks like for you at that point. So really valuable lesson. Thanks for kind of bringing that up. So one last kind of thing I want to kind of touch on before we wrap up here is, we talked a lot about difficulties, challenges, going through things. doing hard stuff, some of the social challenges that you might have faced with family and friends around you. I mean, was this worth it for you? Was the outcome and what you got from this program worth the what most people would call, I wouldn't call it this because I'm very specific about language, but what most people would call sacrifices?
Yeah, unequivocally. I mean, it was just yeah, it was one of the best things I've ever done. I mean, I think. I mean, I sincerely mean that. Again, the the physical aspect is great, but the physical aspect is really a reflection of the a lot of the changes I made inside, and it's just it is the outcome. But I changed a lot more on the inside than I did even on the outside, and on the outside I changed a lot. I mean, yeah, 100% this was worth it. I learned so much, and it was a great experience, and it was challenging. It was hard, but it was really fun, and yeah, I'm really yeah. It couldn't have been more worth it. Like you said too. You said it's rare. It's rarer to be a millionaire than to have six pack abs. I would I wouldn't trade $1 million for this experience. I legitimately mean that. So yeah, 100%.
I appreciate you sharing it. And I mean everything I said. You've done incredible, man. I mean, you do really have an elite physique. So I mean, you're top of the charts, man. There's very few people that have better physiques. And if they do, they're professionals. This is what they do for a living, or they're competing and they're on the sauce.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. It's I'm definitely about to go tell my wife that. So
Yeah, I know Instagram and stuff, you go on, you think everybody's got a six pack and everybody looks amazing, but most of those things are photoshopped and filtered. And it's a very small, select group of people that are on there that are getting all the likes and the followers and everything else. You're talking about, a few hundred people in the country, not millions, that's for sure.
it's pretty fun walking around with a six pack. It's pretty satisfying feeling. And at one point I did get a DEXA scan and I was 10%. I mean, I was 10% body fat, and that was like closer to the end of phase two. Yeah, I was 10% body fat, and I mean, you get a lot of attention, and it's satisfying.
And then to get that external attention, when now you're thinking more internal, it makes it even better because you're getting both the internal pride and the confidence and all the things that you kind of talked about. And then you're adding on this external attention and benefits as well. It's like, I mean, it's really like throwing gas on a fire, and it's just rocket fuel that accelerates your confidence to another level.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it really is a great program. So you help a lot of people, and I read that that one coach that you kind of like. I read the sample of his book. I think it might even be called "Ignite the Fire" or whatever. What's his
Oh
name?
yeah, that's John Goodman's book. Yeah.
Yeah,
I work with John. Yeah, he's one of my
right.
coaches.
Yeah. Well, I read the sample of his book or whatever, and it's mostly about being a coach, and which I think you are excellent at. And not that's a skill within and of itself. People can be good at something but not be able to be a coach of it. Now, I personally am not a very good teacher in general, but you're a good teacher, you're a really good coach, and it really works. You help a lot of people, so I really appreciate it. It's been a huge impact in my life. So
That means a lot. Thank you so much. And yeah, I remember one time I was sitting down with this venture capitalist that I was working with when I was an in-person trainer still. So I think it was my birthday or something. And he was like, "Hey, I want to take you out to dinner for your birthday." And we're sitting there at this fancy restaurant in San Francisco having dinner. And I don't know how we got on the topic, but he said something along the lines of like, if I could, I would write you a check right now for $10 million dollars if I could have your physique. I would write the check right now and hand it to you if I could, and no problems, no questions asked. He's like, but I can't. And I said, what's funny, I almost said his name. I'm not going to say his name, but I said, what's funny, we'll call him Steve. What's funny, Steve, is that I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if I had your money, I would like all my problems would be solved and I would be happy because this is in my kind of period where I'm kind of struggling, trying to make it, trying to make a name for myself and build, this career and this business and stuff. I said, if I had your money, I feel like I would have a success. So it's like he's sitting there looking at me saying, I want your physique. And I'm sitting there saying, thinking about the money. And then what's funny is that as I started to make a little bit more money and kind of work with more people, and I got to a point where finally I was like, you know what? Number one, money generally doesn't make you as happy as you think it's going to. A certain amount is absolutely critical, but over a certain amount just doesn't seem to really add a whole lot of happiness. But I wouldn't change the health, the fitness, and what I have for that money, because you can't buy the health and the fitness. Like, you just can't buy it. It's one of those things money can't buy, and you can't buy self-respect, and you can't buy that pride that you feel when you accomplish those things. And if you exchange that for money and you were able to buy it like that very quickly and easily, you wouldn't value it nearly as much, and it wouldn't change you. Like I kind of say to people in the program, I say the program works because you do. And it's not me that changes you, it's you that changes you. And that's what's so important. It's so important that you put in the hard work and make the changes to yourself, because that's how and why you feel the confidence about yourself to then walk into a meeting and command the room, or to jump on a Zoom call and give a presentation to a group of investors or people, or to jump on a sales call without thinking twice. The confidence that you get for those things comes from confidence in yourself, that you've done hard things, that you are resilient, that you can follow through, that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it, and you're battle tested. You are absolutely, completely, you're battle tested and you're proven. That's real confidence. It doesn't come from affirmations. It doesn't come from pumping yourself up. It doesn't come from writing down I'm amazing and awesome and I have six pack abs on a piece of paper. That's not going to do it. You got to actually do the real work and put in the hard, the sweat equity. If and when you do that, the other side of that is going to be somebody that's confident, that's got a ton of energy, that's capable of just about anything. And if you can do what you have done and build the physique and the body that you have, this top 1% physique, it's so rare, even more rare than $1 million is, you can get that $1 million. Like, you can absolutely get that $1 million, because now it's applying those same principles that we just talked about to now this other thing. And that's totally possible. So, I don't want to, we could talk all day here, but I just want to say and just acknowledge you. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story. But more importantly, I appreciate you changing your physique, changing your mind, investing in the program, taking a chance on us, and putting in as much time and effort as you did, because it's really special for me to see somebody like yourself go through and make the transformation that you made. And it really touches me a lot. And to see that picture of you on the beach with your daughter is just so incredibly touching. And to hear all the benefits that you're sharing here today, it really makes me feel good. And it makes, at least from my perspective, coaching, God, I just feel like I have the best job in the world. And I'm so lucky to work with amazing individuals like yourself. I really appreciate you, and I can't say that enough. Thank you for all the hard work, the effort. Thank you for everything you've done to get to this point. Really, I appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you right back. I mean, couldn't have done it without you, and it's been awesome. And so I appreciate it too.
And as I always say, this journey is more important than you think, right? You've inspired so many people. I mean, even just a simple social media post that you made blew up, and you had, tons of people commenting. And I mean, I think we had a bunch of people join the program just off of that one post alone. So, I mean, you're talking about one post on social media that you made that changed probably a dozen people's lives from there. But people recognize, they see, and at first they might think, this guy's a little crazy what he's doing here with the food or with his workouts or whatever. But then they see the success and the results, and they go, maybe he's not so crazy. Again, just like when I started my business, people thought I was nuts. And then pretty soon I remember one of my friends quit his job to become a personal trainer after that. So
Well, yeah,
at
I mean,
first they think you're crazy, and then they want to join.
yeah, you hear that, yeah, you hear a bunch of stuff at the beginning. Why are you doing it? And then at the end, you hear, how did you do it? It's like,
Yeah.
my mom's asking me for tips, and you're like, you're the one making fun of me. But,
I love it. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks again for everything, for sharing your story here. And remember, action is the difference between dreaming and succeeding. So you heard the man. Take action today, and we'll see you in the next video.